Welcome to 7-2, Solving Equations with Grouping Symbols. Today we're going to, of course, identify equations that have no solution or an infinite amount of solutions, and also solve equations with grouping symbols. So before we begin, we got a couple of ideas, concepts, key terms to go over. The first one is null or empty set. Sometimes when we solve for equations, they have no solutions. That is, no value of the variable results in a true sentence. We cannot put any number in to the equation for the variable and plug and chug, and it would be true. How do we write that answer? Well, more than commonly, we see this symbol here, which is a 0 with a slash through it, which represents no solution. Or you could just write no solution. And then we have, of course, the brackets, or we like to call in class mustaches. And this represents a set of numbers. And when you leave it blank inside, you're also saying that it's null or an empty set, because it represents a set of numbers. There's nothing in it. Next up, if we have no answer, we can also have the complete opposite of that with an equation. That's an equation that is true for every value, an equation that is true for every value of the variable. We call that identity. So what happens is it doesn't matter what number we choose, positive, negative, fractions, decimals, and plug it into the equation, it's true. So sometimes we see this symbol, which really means all real numbers. Or you could just write it. So once again, if you forget what the symbols are and there's no, it's an empty set or a null or no solution, you can write that. Or if you find that if it's an equation that's true for all real numbers, you can write the symbol, but if you forget that, just go ahead and write that out. Alright, this slide says solve the equation, and also it says check the solution. So our equation is 2t is equal to 10 times the quantity of t minus 1. In order to find out what t is, we must simplify the left and right side. If you notice, the left side is simplified, so I have 2t is equal to. Now we have parentheses. That means we haven't simplified this side, so we're going to use the distributive property. And we're going to multiply 10t. And we get negative 10 when we multiply 10 and negative 1. Alright, so now we have two variables, one on the left side and one on the right. So we are going to try to combine the two, either on the left or right side. I'm going to go ahead and move the 10 by subtracting 10 from both sides. That cancels out here. A negative 10 it results in me getting a negative 8t on the left side, and I have a negative 10 on the right. The t is not isolated yet, so I'm going to use division. I am going to keep the same sign so I can make my t positive. The negative 8's cancel out. Now I have negative 8 on the other side. Now two negatives make a positive. I get 5 over 4. Or you might see that your calculator gives you 1 1/4. Now it's time to check the solution. Checking my solution, of course, means that I think the answer x is equal to 5 over 4. I prefer using improper fractions when using between that and mixed numbers. I'm going to go ahead and take my calculator and multiply 2 times 5 over 4. I get 5 over 2. Now I'm going to go to the right side of the equation. I'm going to do everything inside the parenthesis. I'm going to go ahead and go 5 over 4 minus 1. That gives me 1/4. Notice I keep the parentheses up to remind me that I am multiplying by 10. And 10 times 1/4 is 5 over 2. So that does mean My answer is correct. Geometry. So this problem says the perimeter of a rectangle is 46 inches. Find the dimensions if the length is 5 inches greater than twice the width. If you remember, the perimeter has several different types of equations, but this is the basic. P is equal to 2 times the quantity of L plus W. In our problem, we know that the perimeter is 46 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the P, which represents perimeter, with 46. And I'm going to go ahead and look at my example over here. I have width and I have the length. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute those in. Length, of course, is 2W plus 5. And of course here, W is going to just be replaced by W. I'm going to go ahead and look inside the parentheses before I do anything else, because that's what parentheses tell us to do. I notice that we have two like terms. Like terms, of course, get combined. So 2W plus a W. 2 plus 1 is 3W. The 5 does not have a variable, so it cannot be combined together. Now you can see that we still have parentheses because we haven't completely simplified inside, so that's when we're going to go ahead and take the 2 and distribute. 46 is equal to 6W plus 10. Alright, I only have one W, so I'm going to go ahead and isolate it by subtracting 10 from both sides. I get 36 is equal to 6W. Let's continue to get W by itself by dividing both sides by 6. The 6's cancel out. 36 divided by 6 is 6. So I know that my width is equal to 6. But I'm not done yet. This is very, very important. I know that W is equal to 6, but I still haven't figured out what my length is, because it does say find the dimensions. So if you check up here in our original problem, length is equal to 2W, and we found out that W is equal to 6, so I'm going to plug and chug plus 5. The answer is 17. So, once again, width is equal to 6 inches and length is equal to 17 inches. So it's important that we read the directions, find out what we're looking for. It asks for both dimensions. The W, of course, was just equal to W. The length, of course, was here, and we had to plug and chug to find out what that was. Alright, let's solve. As you can see here, we have variables on both sides. We're going to go ahead and try to get the variables to one side, left or the right. I'm going to go ahead and move the 3x to the other side. Now I notice that this cancels out, and the left side I get left with 1/3 equal to. I also notice that the 3x gets canceled out because of this, and I'm left with a -1/2. Now, we're not done. We need to look at this equation and ask ourselves, is the left side equal to the right side? Is 1/3 equal to -1/2? No, it doesn't equal, or it's a false statement. When this happens, when the left side doesn't equal the right side, whether the variables drop or whatever happens, and it's false, we have, from the definitions, no solution. And I'm going to use a sign 0 with a slash through it. Or if you forget that, you can just write no solution. Once again, this means that no matter what number I choose for x, it will not make the statement true. Alright, let's look at this slide. We do have a grouping symbol in this one. So we need to simplify the left side and the right side. before I can solve for x. So the left side needs the parentheses taken away, so I'm going to use the distributive property. So I get 4x minus 2. Parentheses disappear, but don't forget we have a plus 6 on the left side. On the right side, 4x plus 4. There are no like terms, there are no parentheses, so that side is simplified. Let's go back to the left side, check it again. I notice that negative 2 and plus 6 are like terms. So that means I got to combine them together before I do any solving. A negative 2 and a plus 6 gives me a positive 4. You may not be noticing, but the left side is equal to the right side. But just in case, let's take it a step further. You can see that I'm going to now bring the variables to one side. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4x from both sides to have a variable on one side. Left side, the 4x's cancel out. I'm left with 4. I go to the other side. The 4x's cancel out. I'm left with 4. Well, 4 is equal to 4. That is a true statement. And there is no variable. Okay, in the previous slide, it was false. It was no solution. So what is the opposite of false? True means that there's all real numbers. Or if you forget that, you could just go ahead and write all real numbers. Any of these will do.